Hello everyone, Ralphie here, and today I want to introduce you to the Viper TQS, or the Throttle Quadrant System. Now, the TQS was sent to me graciously by Thrustmaster for free, and they told me to do whatever I want with it. So I figure, why not give you just a very quick overview of this entire throttle and what my thoughts are on it. Without having to go through the entire video just to hear my thoughts, I'm going to let you know immediately what I think of this. I actually like it. I really do. I was surprised myself. I thought I wouldn't. I thought I would say don't get it, but I was shockingly surprised. The only thing that really stands out for this throttle that is its main downfall would be the price. And we'll get to that at the end of the video, but that's basically the only biggest negative of this entire system. Now, the TQS actually comes in several different flavors. What you're seeing here is the Viper TQS Mission Pack, which means that it's got the entire throttle assembly along with the panel. You can also get this without this panel, and that will be cheaper. And I think they just call it the Viper TQS. If you want this, it will just be the Viper TQS control panel, which is sold separately, or get the whole thing as the Mission Pack. Now, this little Viper is supposed to be a replica of the real thing down to 1-to-1 ratio. So it is actually fully licensed by the United States Air Force, very much like the Thrustmaster Warthog HOTAS. What do you actually get with the system? All right, so very quickly, we have a dogfight switch over here that goes up, down, and back into the middle position. We have another one that's the speed brake, which has a full stop and then a momentary back. Very much the same as the Thrustmaster Warthog HOTAS. Then we have a very nice Slo Sensor with a very good castle switch over here that feels really nice on the finger, and a press on it, along with the antenna elevation down here, which swivels. You can feel a center detent and swivels in the other direction, and it also has a nice little click. Then over here, we have the manual range as well as the uncage button for your AIM-9Xs or whatnot. It also has the same exact feature as this antenna elevation with a click for the uncage. On this side, we also have a four-way, well, it's actually a five-way because you have 4 different directions and a click-in. And then we have this thing. This is actually not there in the real thing. They added it for this throttle, but it has a two-way, what feels like an axis, which is actually not an axis, it's a button, plus a click-in. Now here we have something that is the heart of this entire system, which is this little click-in thing that allows you to go into afterburner or idle. Now, the way this is supposed to work is that if you can see right over here is a little bearing. Now, this bearing rolls on this metallic surface, and as you can see, we have 2 hard stops. We have the off idle detent, and in the front, we have the afterburner one. So the way this is supposed to work is that when I have the throttle down in the idle position, in order for me to put it into the off position, I will need to raise the throttle. Now, this stops in a certain position where I cannot actually push it further, and I have to click this in order to get that to happen. And now I am in the off position, and in order to go from off to idle, I need to do the same thing. Click this in, push it in, and now I'm in idle. Now, in the opposite direction, to go into afterburner, I can push it over here, and this time I do not need to click this. I can if I want, I mean, it's whatever, but I can just lift it and go straight into the afterburner. Now see, this is where I thought I was gonna hate this, because if every single time that I'm in mill power and I wanna go into afterburner very quickly because, I don't know, a missile launch or something, if I was gonna have to click this thing just to go into afterburner, it seemed like a chore. But the fact that you can just lift it and go forward actually makes things a little bit simpler. So the only place where you can't do that is in the off idle position. It will not let you go back. You have to click this in. So this is not going to be ever an accidente oopsie whoopsie where you just drop the thing into off and kill your engine. And like I said, I honestly thought this was going to be hell for me to learn to do, but I gotta tell you, I kind of like it. And I think it's got to do with the fact that this is so very different than anything else I ever have. Every other throttle is just this completely different ergonomics, different way of working. This is fun. I know, it sounds like I'm forcing it. I cannot express enough to tell you guys that I am giving you 100% genuine reaction to this. I have played with this a little bit already. I like it. I really like it. I really do. It's fun. If I was going to describe the throttle in one word, fun. That's Yeah, fun. It's a fun throttle because it's so unique and it's so different than everything else. Now, in order to add to the fun factor of this entire throttle, they added a slap button.
You're going to be in a great mood all day because you're going to be slapping your troubles away with the slap shot.
The chaff and flare slap button. So in case you ever find yourself in a position where, oh my gosh, there is a missile inbound, well, you can just whoosh.
Chaff flare.
But I love it. It's dumb, but I love it. That's a fun little thing. You're gonna like it too. All right, so let's talk about the panel. Everything here is actually fairly useful, from master arms to your ECM program modes to the type of ECM that you would use. You have a friction axis knob, which does not adjust the friction for this throttle here. Just like the Thrustmaster Warthog HOTAS, the friction here is manipulated somewhere else. On this throttle, it's in the back. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so right now we're actually looking at the back of this throttle. The friction is adjusted over here. It's really difficult to see, but it's just this tiny little metal box. They have included a little Allen key over here that you use to slide in there and adjust your friction. Very cool, very nice that they've included it inside, so you can always adjust this and you never have to go looking for an Allen key. I wish more people did this. So in this instance, this is just an axis wheel. You could choose this to be your view axis, but that doesn't really work well. All right, so earlier I was talking about this little thing. Now, this is the friction knob, but it doesn't actually adjust your friction. Like I said, the friction is in the back. This is just an axis. In the Thrustmaster Warthog HOTAS, I use the same exact thing for my zoom. However, as you can see over here, it is a completely different type of knob, and that's because it is much taller. So when I put my hand on the throttle and I move it around, I can reach with my thumb and I can move that around for zoom, and it is perfect. Now in this one, as you can see, yeah, that's not happening. It is way down here. I would literally have to take my hand off the throttle to adjust the friction lever here for my zoom. That just doesn't work. But that's where I use this one that they've provided for us. This is not the speed brake, that's the speed brake, so that text goes for that. They added this, like I mentioned before. So it is a button forward and button aft and then a click in. And the click in brings you back to center in the viewpoint. And like I said, it actually really works well. I do really like it. So unfortunately, we're not going to use that thing for that, and that kind of sucks. I wish that was taller, but I actually got used to this, and it works surprisingly well. Then you have, again, more ECM stuff over here. I kind of wish this was something different, but it does fit for that area of where the throttle sits with everything else. I can't really blame them for that. You can always just remap this to whatever you want, so that's whatever. The Cat 1, Cat 3, that's going to be something that's pretty useful. And to silence your radar, this is actually pretty neat. So if you want to go stealthy, it's the one way of doing it. You got a laser arm jammer, you got some heading with rotary encoders, your attitude steer holds and autopilot stuff, that's all great and dandy. And then you got your gear lever, which is pretty cool, and with the emergency jettison stores. The gear lever needs to actually be lifted up, so in order to push forward, you can't just accidentally whoopsie the gear. You actually have to lift the gear up to push it forward and lift it up to push it back, so that's pretty cool. Kind of wish that was metal, not plastic. Whatever. And then we get to this thing. This thing doesn't exist in the DCS F-16 that we currently have. I had to do some digging for this because I thought maybe I'm crazy. I've never seen this before. Turns out, and please correct me in the comments section if you know more about this, but the older block generation of F-16s did have this panel, and this panel is actually located next to the HSI. We do not have that panel. As you can see, it is blank in ours because they removed it for a digital version. So this being here for DCS, that doesn't do anything for us. In fact, it's not even mapped to anything because it doesn't exist for our version. However, if you are playing other things, there's more simulators than DCS out there. BMS, I believe, does use an older version block of F-16s. That, I believe, may have this. This would actually be applicable there. For DCS, I don't know, maybe use this as a mode switch for something. Speaking of, and this is where we're going to get to the really odd and strange things, this is one of them. There's one other button that I've missed talking about for this thing, and that's located right up here. So I've flipped over the throttle so you can see it more, but as your hand rests on the throttle as such, there is this weird paddle switch. It is a click button that sits there. For the life of me, I have no idea what this is. It's, as far as my non-extensive research goes, this doesn't exist anywhere. That's the one where you click in for the idle and the afterburner, and this just sits very awkwardly on your hands as you're holding the throttle, so much so where it's actually pretty annoying. It's not bound to anything either for DCS, so I literally have no idea why this was included or what it's for. I assume anyone here is going to find some use for it. I mean, an extra button is an extra button, whatever, right? The issue is that as I'm holding the throttle normally, this gets kind of in the way, and I don't know what to do with my hands.
I'm not sure what to do with my hands.
If we're in the idle position and I move the throttle forward, my ring finger sits on this thing all the time. And I've tried tucking this under this thing, and that kind of works a little bit, moving my entire hand awkwardly to the side. Very weird thing, and weird location as to where to place it. It's not a deal breaker. I mean, it's a button, and you know, if you play this long enough, you kind of get used to it. And I think I kind of sit with my ring finger kind of tucked to the side with it, and I can access everything else relatively well. But yeah, that's a weird one. That goes onto the negatives chart. And I guess if we're talking about ergonomics, that's one of the other things that I thought I was going to hate about this thing. But as I mentioned before, I really do like it, and ergonomically speaking, everything is fully accessible no matter where you place your hand. I can access the Slo Sensor very easily. It's controlled with your thumb, so that sits right there, and that's easy peasy. Got my radar antenna elevation. I can slide with my thumb, and that's, again, easy peasy. Click it in, no problemo. I got my speed brakes here, and, you know, this might be the only weird one, because you kind of have to do it with the sign of your index finger, but it still works, and it's a very sturdy switch. They're not like cheapo things. This one actually might even be metal. I know this is plastic, that's plastic, but these feel very different. If they are plastic, it's very good plastic. But yeah, no, I mean, damn, I can access everything very well. I mean, it's a replica, so, you know, thank you to whoever designed it for the F-16, right? But yeah, I mean, dang, I was actually very surprised about that. Another thing, I have to say, on the positive side, when you do hit this stop, in-game, this stop is 100% to the millimeter correct. So in DCS, you come to the stop, that is literally the spot just before afterburners. Like, down to the millimeter. If you go just past that, it immediately engages afterburner. So you'd have to do zero adjusting whatsoever. I think they said that it goes up to exactly 80% at that point. So, I don't know, but the way they did it, perfect. Now, you can, as I've done over here, remove this afterburner detent and just be able to go full 100% back and forth without the stop right there. Not sure why you'd want to do that. I mean, you've just spent as much money as you did on this thing. Might as well enjoy it. But this is where my little Ralphie tip of the day comes in. I kind of wish that if you had removed this, you would have a cutout that goes along the way here, so that you can take this afterburner detent and slide it to adjust it for other modules. See where I'm going with this? That would have been really cool, really nice. However, on the opposite end of that, I do understand that this is supposed to be an F-16 replica just for F-16s. Obviously, you can use it for whatever you'd like, but in that case, you're going to have a little problem adjusting the afterburner, especially in DCS. But this also goes both ways, because I could also blame DCS on not having a system like BMS, where I can just set my throttle to a position, click a little button that sets the afterburner to that position, and be done with it, software-wise. That way I don't have to go in here and do it, you know, hardware-wise. Because if I were to switch this out for another module mid-game, what am I going to do? Take out my damn thing over here, start unscrewing things, moving things around, or readjusting afterburner detents? That also doesn't make any sense, right? So, cannot blame Thrustmaster at all for that one. But just a little thing to note, yes, you can remove this, but you cannot adjust it. So if this goes back, it's back to being exactly perfect for the F-16, which, you know, it's exactly what it's meant for, so can't really complain too much.
Now, on the software side of things, it gets pretty interesting. When I received this throttle, I had a little file that I plugged it into DCS, and it mapped everything out for me. My assumption is that once this comes out to the public, you are all going to be able just to plug it in and have everything mapped out. Of course, you're going to have certain situations where this knob over here or the button underneath this throttle doesn't actually map to anything because it's not actually there for DCS. Now, if you wanted to, let's say, change the lighting here, the intensity of it, instead of having to download their target software and mess there, what you can actually do it is through the panel itself. What you're going to do is you're going to press these two buttons together. So you're going to press them together until you see the blinking light, and now you can use the rotary to move it up and down and adjust the lighting. Now, once you're done, you're going to press and hold everything together until the blinking light stops, and there you go. Very simple.
Thrustmaster had also very generously sent me over one of their Thrustmaster flying clamps. Very simple design. As you can see, it has a ton of different holes for mounting options, and it just comes on with these two little screwy things and put it on the desk and you're basically done. Very simple and effective. Unfortunately, as you're looking at the manual, you're going to see that there's only a very limited amount of things that can mount to this, even though you have all these holes that you can mount to it. As you can see, this throttle can only mount in these holes, this stick can mount to these, and then we have these two that mount, you know, over here. But I am sure that you can use any of these holes to really mount other things to it, but officially, these four plus the Viper Throttle are the only ones that are supported. Oh, and while we're at it, they don't include the screws that mount to the plate. They give you the screws to mount the plate itself, but the screws that mount the plate to the thing that you're mounting it to, that's on you. Yeah. Now the clamp itself, as you can see, is fairly sturdy and it works. I mean, it's a clamp, whatever, right? The only thing I will say is that you're probably going to want to find a better mounting solution. There's a lot of holes underneath. Because when I go into full afterburner, as you can see, it gets close. It doesn't touch, but it gets very close up here. So I would probably shift this over to the left a little bit. You're going to have to find your own little zen spot. But overall, as a desk mount, man, this works very well and pretty sturdy. Now, as far as this being on the desk, as you can see, this actually works pretty well. It sits about the same height that you'd expect a normal throttle to sit at, so this feels pretty good. I have found zero discomfort having it on top here. So whether you want it on top of your desk or on the clamp, either one works. Okie dokie. This is where we get to the difficult portion of this this video, and that's when we start talking about the price. So let's go over that really quickly. If you wanted just the Viper TQS without this panel, that's going to cost you $330. Then this panel over here is the control panel, the Viper control panel. That is going to be $250. You know, as far as control boxes go, $250, that's around that range that you're starting to see these control boxes be on the market with other companies. And it's got a fair amount of stuff going on. So that price point, it's like, you know, it's up to you whether or not that's decent. I think that's okay-ish. A little bit on the high side, but okay-ish. And then, of course, this whole system that came in the box, this would be the Viper TQS Mission Pack. That's going to be $530. $530. Yeah. That's a lot of money for just a throttle. Well, a throttle and a control panel, but yeah. So there are two ways of thinking about this. You know, on the first, I would say for the general purpose person who's looking for just a regular throttle to go across many different things, this is probably going to be too expensive. And I 100% agree with you. So I completely understand if the majority of the people watching this are probably going to be turned off by that price point, and I completely understand. On the other hand, there is the other type of people, and it's going to be just like me back when I was a wee little lad. You know, back when I was just ending high school, going into college or starting out college, around that time, the 810C Warthog was coming out, and Thrustmaster was coming out with the Warthog HOTAS system. Now, the 810C is my baby, and I knew the 500, it was just a little bit over $500 for that whole HOTAS system. Man, that thing was expensive, but I coughed up the dough, and to this day, I am extremely happy that I did so. I don't regret it. I do not regret that purchase. That was a fantastic hardware purchase for me. Now, if you're of the same mind where you are a Viper freak, you just love the F16 very much and you want a replica, I mean, I recommend it. I do. It's a lot of money, but if you want that replica, you want that top stuff, this is a solid frickin' throttle. And I think that it's very much well worth your time to invest money into this. But for the layman person, yeah, this is probably going to be a little bit too much. But, you know, if you are that guy that really wants the F16 and he wants to play with it, I give this 2 thumbs up. I really am having fun with this. I understand. I got it for free. It's a completely different kind of mentality. I completely understand if that's a little bit outside people's budgets. So, you know, that is my honest opinion on that. And with that, I'd like to close this out and say thank you very much for watching. And let me know in the comments what you think. You know, do you think this is worth it? You know, if you're a Viper lover, would you get this? Let me know, and I'll see you guys on the next one.